Greetings, everyone, and welcome to our special BTC member webinar about apps on the trail. My name is Ali Schofield, and I'm the Manager of Communications for the Bruce Trail Conservancy. Before we begin, just as Ryan mentioned, I'd like to invite you to submit any questions you have during the webinar through our Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. We will have some time at the end of the presentation to address as many questions as we can. Now, it is my great pleasure to introduce to you our facilitator for this webinar, Brooke Henry. Brooke has worked for the BTC for 5 years and is currently our talented, intrepid, and creative communications coordinator. Brooke holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in History from Wilfrid Laurier University and a Bachelor of Education from Western University. She has also continued her education in Communications and Marketing at Sheridan College. She is a trail captain in the Iroquois section and a World Trails Network ambassador for the BTC, which is a position that she has held for the last 2 years. Some may also recognize her from our webinar on the BTC app, which happened in 2022. She is a wealth of knowledge and expertise and an integral part of our team, and we're very glad to have her here with us today to share some insights about how technology can enhance our experience on the trail. And with that, I will throw it over to our facilitator, Brooke Henry.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us today. As Ali mentioned, my name is Brooke Henry, and I am here to talk about apps on the trail. First off, I wanted to thank you all. You can see our mission here of preserving a ribbon of wilderness for everyone forever. I wanted to thank you all specifically because this is a webinar for members, and we really wouldn't be able to do this without our members, and our members really make our organization what it is. So thank you so much for being members and for joining us today. And so today we will be talking about apps on the trail. So this is our agenda for today. We'll start with an introduction, and then we'll get into these apps. So we'll start with iNaturalist, then Seek, then Merlin, then What 3 Words, and then we'll discuss some of the new things about the Bruce Trail app that have come out since my previous webinar. And then we will have time for questions, which we've mentioned earlier. So lots to cover, so we'll get right into it. So first of all, as I said, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. As Ali mentioned, I've been with the Bruce Trail since October of 2018, so some time now. I may have met some of you on the trail. I do help maintain a piece of trail in Grimsby, so I myself get out there often, and I love getting out there. It's such a great place to be, and I hope all of you love it as much as I do. While we're out on the trail, we can actually use technology to help enhance our experience. So while many people might go out to try to get away from your screen or get away from your computer, we can also use them, not necessarily to be looking at them constantly while we're hiking, but we can use them to help learn more about the things around us. We can use them to help explore different and new areas of the trail. And of course, we can use them for safety. They can really help keep us safe as well. One thing I will note about this webinar is that all of these apps are so amazing, but we will not have time to cover every function of them. So today we will try to focus on how these apps can be used specifically on the Bruce Trail, and also we'll cover some of the more practical functions and specific functions that I find useful and that we at the Bruce Trail find useful. So there's a lot to look at. And I will also note that we do ask that when you're using apps like these, that you always stay on the trail and follow the Bruce Trail code and try to make as little impact on the trail as possible when using these apps. So we'll dive right in. Many of you may have heard of iNaturalist before. We have been talking about it here at the Bruce Trail for years now. And iNaturalist is a great app for collecting your plant, fungi, animal, bird, insects, all of these types of sightings that you see on the trail. So it's a really helpful app for learning more about the ecology and biodiversity of the trail. Today we're talking about apps, but I will note that the iNaturalist app is also available on desktop. So you can also use this app on your desktop, which is really helpful if you want to do some more exploring. iNaturalist is unique because it allows you to share your sightings specifically with a community of other iNaturalist users. So it's a really community-based app, which is so fantastic And it can be a great way to connect with other people who are interested in ecology and biodiversity and learning about different species. As I mentioned, this is an app that can help you identify your sightings, but also a lot of experts use the app as well. So while you and I can use iNaturalist, but a lot of other scientists and ecologists will also use this app. And while the app uses its database of information about species to help identify your species, sometimes there's not quite enough information for the app, and other users can then step in and help identify the species further. So they can see your picture, and maybe the app could only identify the family, and it can then be submitted, and other users can come on and say, actually, this is this specific type of aster or this specific type of geranium. It can really get down to the specifics once you get the community folks on there to help identify. As I mentioned, scientists are on this app, and that includes our BTC ecologists. Our ecologists use this app regularly, and they also look at, they don't just submit their own sightings, but they also look at sightings that people have submitted and use it to look at data about the Bruce Trail and the Niagara Escarpment. And unfortunately, we do have identified invasive species along the trail, but this app can be a great tool to help track where those invasive species are and help us determine whether work needs to be done to remove them from different areas. So in this image here, you'll see I saw some turkey tail on the trail, and this is just a good example of what it looks like when you're submitting photos to the app. This bar that says, "What did you see?" is what you click to have the app's database help identify your species. And then below is the other information about the photos that you took. So it says here I was on the Bruce Trail in Grimsby. This was actually the section that I helped maintain. And then you'll see whether when it was taken, what time, and whether you want to add it to a project. So on the next slide, I'll talk about projects. So the Bruce Trail Conservancy has a project on iNaturalist, and this can help our ecologists track the species along the trail. So while they could look at the map on the Explore page of iNaturalist, having a project helps us gather all of the different sightings that people have submitted on the trail. This has been active since 2018, and we have over 40,000 observations, which is so fantastic. And you can see our project here on the right. We have 2,812 species that have been identified, which is so fantastic for, and helps us really see the biodiversity of the Niagara Escarpment. To join the project, you do have to download the app from the App Store or Google Play Store and create an account on iNaturalist. Once you've done that, you can choose projects, which is found in the bottom right corner of the homepage of the app. If you search Bruce Trail Conservancy, you can then go to our page. And then on the top right corner of our page, it will say, join this project. Once you do that, you can then start adding all your observations to the Bruce Trail Conservancy project, which is so great. And it really helps us monitor biodiversity. I will note that when you do submit a sighting or an observation, you do need to specifically choose Bruce Trail Conservancy project for every sighting. So you need to make sure that that little tab is on. And I will just go over how to do that. So this is my page here in this image, and you can see all of my different sightings. I often use the camera function while I'm on the trail just to submit a sighting right there and then. But you can also choose photos from your photo library if you just want to take a picture and submit them later. As I mentioned, iNaturalist will identify the plant, but then other users can confirm the plant ID. So they can confirm if iNaturalist is right, or they can even narrow it down further, not just an aster, say, but to a New England aster, for example. It does have location services, so it will identify where you are on the trail if you have your GPS turned on, but you can also turn that off, say if you see a rare species, or if you just don't want to indicate that at that time. So I'll just show you this video of how you can submit a species. So this is me with a camera on the trail. And so I choose the camera function. and you can see it pops up and you can see the ivy that I'm taking a picture of. So I take a picture and I choose that photo, and then it takes me to this screen. I say, please help me identify the species. It gives me some options of what the species might be. I think it's common ivy, so I choose common ivy. I then go to projects, make sure it's on the Bruce Trail Conservancy project. And then I go back and I submit my finding because I see that the time and date and place are already indicated there. Once I upload the observation, it then downloads it to iNaturalist. And from there, it will be added to our Bruce Trail Conservancy project page. So when you go into projects, you can see the Bruce Trail Conservancy is there. And the ivy that I saw is now at the top of the observation list, and you can see all of the information about that there. So that is how we can use iNaturalist on the trail. And again, that's just one of the many uses of iNaturalist. But the great thing about it is this is used around the world by so many people that you are really becoming part of like a community when you join iNaturalist. And it's a really fantastic tool. And then kind of related to iNaturalist is an app called Seek. So Seek is another tool that you can use owned by iNaturalist. And it has a similar function, but there are some differences between the two. So this is a great tool for quickly identifying plants and species on the go, and less so about adding to a community and a project. Like there isn't that sort of function built into it. And unlike iNaturalist, you don't need to create an account, which makes it more kid-friendly because a lot of kids don't have email addresses to do so. And then this is kind of like a gamification of iNaturalist. So you can earn badges and complete challenges, and it kind of makes it a little bit more of a game and a bit more of like a fun way to get out and explore, and like a motivator to get you out exploring and looking for plants and animals and that kind of thing. While you can't upload it to Seek your observations necessarily, you can connect it to your iNaturalist account and they will connect to each other and you can upload it to iNaturalist from there. But yeah, so I will show you a video of how you can use it. In this video, I saw two different plants. So you'll see I find one plant and my camera scans it and you'll see 5 green dots come to life at the top, and that means that it's identified the plant. I then look at the plant, learn more about it, add it to my observations on Seek, and then go back and see my other plant, and you'll see again that it identifies it quickly. So I'll show you this video. And so this is the Seek homepage. I choose the camera. It always has this warning. And then you can see I pull it up to the plant and it says it's a round-lobed hepatica. I earn a badge, and that's the gamification part of this app, which is so fun. And then you can view the species and you can learn all about it. You can see where other people have seen it, and you can see its taxonomy, how many people view it, where and when. And it's just like a great way to learn about the plant right here and right now. You'll see I go back to the last page and I go back to camera and I'm looking at this other plant over here, and right away it determines that it's a broadleaf sedge. And sometimes it's not this easy. These ones are really picked up really quickly. And I take my photo and I can learn more about the broadleaf sedge by looking through its information on Seek. So it's really fun. It's really neat. It's especially great if you just want to go, hey, what's that? Let me see. And it pops up so quickly. You can really learn a lot about plants this way. So it's a great way to enhance your experience. What I will note, as I mentioned, these two were very quickly identified. Sometimes if you see something, say in the winter, that usually has a flower, or if you see something that maybe doesn't have some really ample leaves, it will take a little longer to identify it. And you may just need to move your camera and give it some time to sort of gather the information it needs to identify that plant. So as I mentioned, it is a gamified sort of version of iNaturalist. In the menu on the left-hand side here, you can see that there's achievements, challenges, your observations, and then that's, again, iNaturalist that you can connect to. I am but a cub on Seek, so my achievements are mostly plant-based, and that's the badge I have there at the bottom. I'm silver with plants. But if you gather more and more information about different or observations of different species, you'll get more badges, which is really fun. And you can also do challenges that Seek has. They do monthly challenges. They do species or like types of plants, or they do types of fungi, they do types of birds, different types of challenges that you can participate in and get badges for that as well. So it's a great way to motivate you. This video is just showing a challenge that's available right now where you need to find one of each, like a plant, you need to find a fungi, or fungus, I should say, a vertebrate, insect, so there's different things that it challenges you to find. And it's a really fun way to motivate to get out on the trail. And especially if you have younger kids, we all know like they love a scavenger hunt. This is a great way to do it and to motivate them. And these are all the different challenges that you can see available on Seek. So there are a lot of different ones to choose from, which is so fantastic. So that's Seek. And so we'll move on now to my personal favorite, which is the Merlin app. Many of you may have heard of Merlin, but it's designed for anyone interested in identifying birds. And it's created by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. I describe it to my friends and family as Pokemon Go for birds because it is like you're collecting birds in your app. And it's such a fun way to learn more about birds. It's really fantastic. Excellent for improving your knowledge. I have learned so much from this app since I've downloaded it. And it does become a little bit addicting, so I will warn you. And I usually just use it to identify by sound, but you can also identify by photo or description. And so we'll go through the 3 different ways you can identify birds on Merlin. So as I mentioned, the one I use the most is by sound. And so if you choose to identify by sound, it'll pop up onto this screen that you see here. And then it will listen using your phone speaker for the bird calls. I didn't have sound on when I made this recording, so we'll keep that in mind. But as you see, or as you hear bird noises, or as the app hears birds noises, the different names of the different birds it hears will pop up, and then they will flash yellow, and that's showing what birds you're hearing. And then after that, you can stop the recording and you can add those birds to your life list. And it's a really fun way to kind of like collect birds. So I'll show you this video here. So this is the app listening for birds. The gray bar is a visual of the recording. And right away you can see it was hearing a downy woodpecker. On this day, for whatever reason, there were a lot of woodpeckers out. And so there's a downy woodpecker. You can kind of see the faint lines in the gray showing when it's making a sound. And then it was joined by a black-capped chickadee. And you can see there's a blue dot beside the black-capped chickadee, and that's because I have already added the black-capped chickadee to my life list, but I haven't added the downy woodpecker yet, so I will say this is my bird. I will choose the location. I was on the Bruce Trail at the McNally property in Waterdown here, and I will add that to my life list. And it celebrates that it's a new bird to your life list. And then you can go back, and that's the main page there. So it's a really fun way to learn more about birds, to see what birds are around you. And I really enjoy using it myself, so I hope you do too. And then we will go to the next one here, and this is identifying birds by photos. So if you are really into photography, you likely have a lot of bird photos. It's just, they're so beautiful. We love to take photos of birds. You can either use the app itself and open the camera function in the app, but I find birds are so fleeting, like they love to fly really quickly all around, that it's hard to take a photo right in the app. So I personally usually upload photos from my library because it's much easier to just go straight to your camera app. But whatever works for you. And then once you do that, it kind of takes you through a similar process as it did with the sound. So you'll see here, I'll play this video. You choose photo ID. I choose a photo from my library. I had this photo of a mallard duck recently. And I zoom in until it can really get a good look at the bird. This one, because it was taken with my DSLR, does not actually have the location, but you can add one. And so this was at Bayfront Park in Hamilton here, really popular park, lots of birds there. And so I just search that. Here it pops up. And then I go ahead and I say, this is where it was. And it comes up with a suggestion of what that bird is based on the photo. So it's a really neat function. And you can go through the different photos and compare and contrast with the bird that you saw. You can even use the little speaker button beside the "This is my bird" button that says, it shows you different sounds. It's really fantastic for that. And you can identify, yes, this is my bird. This is where it was. It has you create a little unique tag for that location. So as I mentioned, it was Bayfront Park. And then from there, you save it. And I didn't have a mallard on my list yet. So it adds it to the list, and it's a really neat function, especially if you're into photography. And then this is my life list. So then this is an example of all the birds that I have spotted or heard using this app. So it's really fantastic. And the last one that we'll just briefly talk about is the step-by-step ID. This is really great for if you see the bird or hear the bird, but don't have time to whip out your phone to record it or take a picture. You can go, okay, this is the bird. You describe it using their little questions that they have there. They ask what size, what color, where you were, and then it will narrow down the birds and provide a list, and you can find your bird on the list that they have created with their database. So it's a really great way to do it as well, because we know birds can be quick. And so just one last thing about Merlin. To accurately identify the birds, Merlin does have different bird packs that are specific regions. And this is because it's a lot of data. And if they provided all of the birds from all over the world, it would be a lot of data for you to download. So they've divided it into regions. You can find the bird packs under settings. And for our region, I would recommend Canada East. And that's covered me for most of my time. But I did recently go on vacation to Florida, and I was having difficulty finding birds. There was tons of birds around, but when I used Merlin, it was having trouble identifying. And that was because I didn't have the bird pack downloaded for that region. So be sure you download, if you're going away and you want to use Merlin, the region that you need. And this is just a beautiful little heron we saw while we were in Florida. And all right, so moving on to the next one is the What Three Words app. So this app is really unique and it's great for safety and navigation. So this app divides the world into 3-meter squares and gives each square a unique combination of 3 words. So if you are anywhere in the world, you can open What Three Words and it will tell you what the 3 words are for the square that you're standing in. And it's really helpful for people like first responders. And first responders are becoming more and more familiar with this app. Because if you, say, are out on the trail somewhere and something happens and you need a first responder to come get you, instead of saying, oh, I'm near this tree or near such and such place, you can say, my 3 words are Jaunts, Taker, Register. And they'll go into their app and they'll search Jaunts, Taker, Register, and it will show them exactly where you are within 3 meters. So it's a really good app for safety, and we do recommend that if you are going out on the trail, that you download this app, and then that way, God forbid anything happens, you will have this in your pocket. You can also use this to identify meeting points. So it's not just for safety, but it can make it a lot easier to meet up with friends. For example, recently I was meeting up with friends at the Wentworth Stairs, and say someone didn't know that they were called the Wentworth Stairs, and they would just said, stairs in Hamilton. There's a lot of different sets of stairs in Hamilton. So you might say, okay, meet me at ticked promotes spelling. You can type it into the search bar and it will take them right there. I would not recommend this though for navigation necessarily. What three words can take you out to Google Maps, but within the app itself, if you use their navigational tool, is basically just a compass and it just points you in the direction. It doesn't really show you like where the trail is. As we all know, the trail can be quite winding. And if you just did like, okay, point north, for example, you just go straight through the woods sometimes. So we don't use that for navigation necessarily, but it can be used to pinpoint a location. And then you can pop out to Google Maps to find a way there. So that's what three words. And let me just see. Oh, and here's a little video where I type in picked promotes spelling, and you can see it will take me right there. And the great thing is you can also use the voice function and just say the words into the app, and it will also take you there. So there it goes, right to Wentworth Stairs. And so moving on, we have my other favorite app, which is the Bruce Trail app. So as Ali mentioned, I did host a Bruce Trail app webinar back in 2022, and that is available on YouTube, and we will include it in our email post this webinar as well if you need a refresher. But the app was originally released in 2021, and since then has been an excellent tool for navigating and exploring the Bruce Trail. We update the app regularly with trail information. So say there's a closure along the trail, we will provide that in the app, which is what actually makes it unique from our reference guide, which is our map book. The app gets updated weekly, daily, depending on when it needs to be done. So it's a really great tool, and you can avoid disappointment when you hit the trail if you have the app. It is free for 7 days, and then after that, it is $2.99 a month or $29.99 annually. And it is a really nice thing that you have both the monthly and the annually options, because say you only like hiking in the fall, then you may only want to pay $2.99 for October or September, and then you can cancel the app. But say you love hiking in all seasons, you do get a discount if you do the annually payment. Many people do ask why our members do not receive the app for free, and that is because you must purchase the app through the App Store on your iPhone or the Google Play Store on your Android. And unfortunately, at this time, they're not connected to our member database. And so it is difficult for us to determine who is a member and who's not, as we cannot connect that information with the App Store or the Android store. The funds from the app do go to the maintenance and improvements of the app. As I'll go over shortly, there have been quite a few improvements, and we are constantly working on ways to make the app more user-friendly and to listen to our users. So we do listen to our app users and add different functions as well. So that's just a recap of what happened. Oh, here's the recap. Sorry, my apologies. So on our webinar last time, we did go over a few of the main functions that were happening at that time. So we have had improvements that I'll go over too. But at that time, we looked at tracking a hike. We looked at how to drop a pin. We looked at creating a route. And we looked at measuring distances as well. And we also reviewed different filters, including parking, trail notices, campsites, pet zones, and BTC protected natural areas. And then, of course, we also discussed, oops, sorry about that. My apologies, oops. Just go back one. It's okay. We also just discussed different ways you can use the app. And it was really engaging. I really enjoyed doing it, and I hope that you enjoy watching it if you decide to watch the YouTube video after. So the Bruce Trail app, since then, we've had quite a few things happen. The main thing is that you can now report a trail issue in the pin function. So you can now drop a pin, and instead of just creating a pin, you can choose report a trail issue. You can also, in this function, add a description and a photo, similar to actually how some of those other apps work. And you can do this either while you're on the trail or after your hike if your internet connection is poor while hiking. And then this report goes directly to our trail maintenance folks so that they can go out and address the issue. And so here I'll just play this video. So this is an example of reporting a trail issue. So I choose the pin function. I drop the pin where this graffiti was that I saw this day, and I choose report a trail issue. Graffiti isn't one of the options on the category, so you can see the different categories. So I choose other, and here I type graffiti, and on this day I chose a photo from my library, but as I said, you can also take a photo right then and there. Here is some graffiti that I saw. It uploads there, and then we can go, okay, we're going to send a report. And actually, I'll just show you that it shows where it is with coordinates as well. And you send a report and it will go to our trail maintenance folks. And it's a really great way to keep the trail safe and maintained. And it's been really helpful to have people who are on the trail able to report because, you know, the staff don't get out on the trail every day. And it's a really great tool for all of us. So there's that. And so that's just one of the things we've done. A few other things that we have done since the last webinar that I hosted include we've added the section boundaries, and this was by popular demand. Many people were asking us to include the boundaries between the 9 Bruce Trail clubs, so we did that, and that's a filter that you can find in the top right corner of your app. There's filters, and you can see the list there. And we've also had, so there was a little confusion around BTC maps. So now when you choose the map type BTC map, if you have not downloaded any of those maps, it will let you know. It will say, hey, you haven't downloaded any maps. Do you want to do that? And then it will take you to the area of the app where you can download. We also have allowed people to search with GPS coordinates now, as this was something that people requested. So you can see on the right-hand side where it says where to, you can now put in GPS coordinates there. And we've also had it so that, say you're in an area with poor service or poor internet, before you would have to wait for the app to update, and sometimes it was a really long time or it would have difficulties doing so without internet. But now you can skip updates and go straight to the app. And so that's a really great tool. And I'd like to thank our friends up in the Peninsula section for suggesting that one. And I'd just like to note that we have a lot of functions on this app, but one thing that people do ask about is the kilometer markings. So we do not include kilometer markings on the app because the app changes so regularly due to conditions and construction and that kind of thing. So the trail itself, the distances are changing quite regularly. And of course, when we secure land in certain areas, the trail will move there as well. So because of that, it just doesn't make sense to have the kilometer markings there because they would have to shift constantly. We do know that those are provided in the reference guide, but the difference between the reference guide and the app is that the app does have those measuring tools. So it has the ruler to measure as well as the route creator to measure. So it has other measuring tools that you can use that the reference guide doesn't. So I just wanted to note that. And now this is a very exciting announcement as well. A new hike log function is coming soon. This is something that people have been asking about for a very long time. And we're now in the beta phase of this function and we can't wait to show it to you. Unfortunately, it's not ready to show today, but we are very close and we really look forward to releasing a new version of the app with a hike log. So you can add hikes, whether they're tracked or routes, because if you're like me, you probably forget to turn on your tracking when you're hiking, unfortunately. So you can either add tracked hikes or routes to a log and you can organize them with tags. And it's going to be really cool because the tags can be organized. Say you want to finish the Niagara section, you can label all your Niagara hikes with a tag. And then you will be able to see all of your hikes from your hike log on your Explore screen. That will be a new filter that will be available on the Explore screen. So it's really exciting, and we're really excited to share that with you. So keep an eye out for it. We will post about it once it's available. And finally, I just wanted to talk about other apps that might be of interest to you. So if you're exploring the trail, there are other apps that you can use. So I just wanted to address those. First of all is All Trails. A lot of people ask about All Trails, and we do sometimes, I use All Trails sometimes just to see where I could potentially go for a hike. What I do not trust with All Trails is that it is a user collection of information, and it's all user-based information that is provided. And any Joe Schmo could add a hike to All Trails. So you cannot always trust All Trails in terms of whether a trail is open, whether a parking area is legitimate. It is not the most reliable source. And that's just how All Trails works, unfortunately. I mean, great intentions, and like I said, a great way to see what might be out there. But if you do look at All Trails, I do highly suggest that you then look for more reliable sources. And that's something like the Bruce Trail app, or wherever you're looking to hike, go look at a conservation area's website, something like that, just to make sure that that trail is legitimate, and that you're not, say, trespassing or something like that. Another app that I use sometimes is called Strava. And Strava is just kind of like also a community-based app as well, where you can track, this is a run that I did around Bayfront Park, and it tells you your speed, your elevation, and you can share that with your other friends who also use Strava. So it's kind of similar to like a Facebook of running, and a lot of people will like celebrate your hikes or your speed, or say if you do like your best time, it will tell you that, and then it allows your friends to interact with that, and it makes these fun little graphics that you can share. Another one, so if anyone saw our latest magazine, you'll know that we talked about the sky, and especially the night sky. And while we do ask that you are very careful if you do go hiking at night, and that you take all the proper precautions, if you are out, you can use something like this to help see what stars and planets and constellations are around you. So night sky is a fun one. There's quite a few different apps like it, so you can try out different ones and just search on your App Store or your Google Play. You'll see a lot of different options. I find Night Sky is the one that I like. It has some really great reviews as well. So if you are going out, and as we know, the sky is of extra interest lately because of the eclipse coming up, it has some like fun information about what's up there. So there's that one. And then, of course, we have Fitbit and Apple Health, which can connect to your wearable devices, such as your Fitbit bracelet or your Apple Watch. These are other fun tools that you can use while hiking, and they can track different things like more of your step count, which is something that we don't have on any of the other apps, or more of like your own personal health goals you can track on there as well. So yeah, there's obviously a lot more other apps too out there, and I do encourage you to explore as I mentioned, while we do like try to get away from our phones often, they can also really enhance our experience. And so with that, we'll get into the question period. I would say for specific user-based questions about the Bruce Trail app, or say joining the Bruce Trail project, like if you yourself are having an issue, I encourage you to get in touch with info@brucetrail.org, and they can help get you logged in or get you sorted out there. For questions about this webinar, if you don't feel comfortable asking them today, or if you think of something later, please feel free to email me at bhenry@brucetrail.org. And a list of links will be sent, included in this webinar recording afterwards as well, because we aren't necessarily the experts with iNaturalist. So if there's, we can help with the Bruce Trail project and that kind of thing, but we'll send some links as well for more information. So, all right, I'll pass it over to Allie.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Brooke, for sharing such interesting and valuable information with us. You're absolutely right that sometimes we do try to get away from technology by getting out on the trail, but it really can enhance the experience and your understanding of what's around you. So thanks so much for sharing this with us. Thanks to those of you that have submitted questions. Just a reminder that this webinar has been recorded and will be emailed to all attendees. So if there are certain screen videos you would like to rewatch and follow along step by step, that will soon be available to you. So we'll start by taking a few questions. And actually the first one, I'm just going to mention Linda, who is a trail director, just kindly suggested too that, responding to the issues reported on the app, please encourage folks to send photos. So those photos are extremely helpful. So yeah, thanks for covering that, Brooke, and thanks, Linda, for that reminder. Brooke, can you tell us a little bit about the costs that are involved with these apps? Are most of them free, or are there specific costs, maybe aside from the BTC app, which you've talked about, that are associated with some of these?
Yeah, so actually all of those apps are free. So iNaturalist, Seek, and Merlin are all free. And then we have the Bruce Trail app I mentioned. Oh, and What Three Words is free as well. Some of them do ask that you make accounts, but that's just usually like your email and your name and nothing more. So that's the one really great thing about them, is that they're really accessible to all.
That's awesome. And what about cell service? Julie asks, what 3 words require cell service? Is that correct? And do the other apps as well, do they require a cell service connection?
So What Three Words, it will tell you, so when you're on the trail, it will narrow down slowly with the satellite where you are, but it may take more time if you don't have cell service, I find. Um, but it should work without cell service. It just may take more time to locate you. And then for the other apps, for Merlin, that's why you download the packs, so the bird packs, and that will help with that information. As well as our Bruce Trail app. The best maps for offline use are those Bruce Trail maps that you do need to download. And I briefly mentioned that we do have a notification now that if you don't have them downloaded, it will let you know. But if you download them before you go to the trail, that is your best bet for the Bruce Trail app. And then for iNaturalist, it won't work well if you don't have service. And that's why that option of uploading a picture, like if you take the photo while you're on the trail, you can even use the Bruce Trail app to drop a pin and save your spot if you want to. You can then go home and when you have internet service, upload that photo to iNaturalist. And as for Seek, I believe you do need service for that one, but I would have to double check on that one. So that's a good question for Seek. So
Excellent.
we can let you know.
And I love the idea too of using one app to complement the other. So that's great advice too.
Yeah.
Adrian asks, would you consider adding boot brush locations to the app? It would be a good way to encourage use and support local BTC efforts against invasive species. So there's a great suggestion, Brooke, for you to take away.
Yeah, that is a great suggestion. And you know what? We'll add it to our list because we do have an ongoing list of wish items for the app that we're constantly working on. So yeah, we'll add that because that's a great idea.
Excellent. And Karen has piped in with some advice here too. She says something to be aware of is to turn off your data when using a tracking app as it uses some battery life. So, taking runs off satellites and not cell towers. So also a really good idea to be mindful of your battery and depending on the length of your hike, even having maybe a backup battery pack to help you out there. But, be mindful of closing your apps too when you're not using them.
Yeah, and I would also recommend, so it hasn't been a very cold winter. It's been an interesting winter, but the cold will also affect how your battery works. So if you have your phone like in a pocket against you, it will last longer. And then yes, you can always carry a little battery pack with you as well for that extra charge if you need it.
Excellent. And Julie asked too about the filters available on the app. This might be a little bit more of a one-off question, but do you have an idea of what the current version of the app is? Says she has version 2.2.0, and just not sure if that's the current version or if it needs an update.
Oh, that's a good question. So, it depends on whether you're Apple or Android. So those have two different versions because they're basically two different app builds. So if you actually go to the App Store on your phone, whether it's Google Play or Apple, it will say what the most recent version is, and you can update your app from there if you want to.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's it for our questions right now. We have a couple more minutes if anyone else has a question they would like to submit. Well, Brooke is here, our expert to answer those. We will give it another minute or so. Oh, lots of great thanks. Lots of great thanks from
Oh,
everybody here.
that's great. Thank you. Like I said, thank you all for joining and for being members. It's really great to see everyone come out for the webinar, and we wouldn't be here without you. So.
Absolutely. And it's also a good time, as Brooke mentioned, the total solar eclipse is coming up on April 8th. We are very excited about that. We have lots of programming coming up, including our webinar, which is happening on March 28th at 7 p.m. in the evening. So you can go on to our website to register for that. That's a member webinar as well. And that will be hosted by a gentleman from the astronomy department at McMaster University. So lots to look forward to there. And again, that's free for members. One more question. How does Merlin differ from eBird? Are you familiar with the eBird app?
So I believe they're related. So I would have to look into it a little further, but you can connect Merlin to eBird as well. I would have to look into that further. So that's a great question. And we can always look into that and include it in our email as well.
Absolutely. Great. Well, that looks like that's about it. So I'd like to say a big thank you first to our membership engagement coordinator, Ryan Mikaloff, for his technical assistance today. And of course, to our wonderful facilitator, Brooke Henry, for her expertise and time. As has been mentioned, please be on the lookout for an email with the recording and some other helpful links and resources in your inbox. And thank you so much for joining us today. Have a very lovely afternoon.